Hi, in this video we're going to talk about text formatting options that are available to you. And we're in the middle of formatting this document and we want to add a source line for this document, and I want to show you how to put that source line in this small box over here. So I'm going to go to source over here. I have this pasted here, so I'm going to copy it, Control C. I'm going to go over here, Control V, and I've pasted the source line, but I retained the source formatting, which I didn't want to do. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that, and then I'm going to paste just the values. I can right click and paste the values, or I can go up here and paste the values that way. Now you can see the text is in here, you can see it up here. It's retained this gray and white formatting, which I like, but the text is not really totally visible. It's very cut off because it's showing up on one line and it's just centered here. So what I need to do is I need to turn on wrap text, and now it is on more than one line. So if I make this larger, you can see the text is stuffed in there. Now what I'm going to do is make this a little smaller, and I got it right here like this. But what I want to do is I want to have a little more control over how this text is being wrapped. So let's say it was this width and I wanted this in millions to be on the next row. Now I could just make this less wide, but let's say that wasn't an option and I wanted to control this. Now what you'd want to do is you want to add a line break here, and you may think you can't do that because if you click here and then, like any other word processor, if you hit the enter key, it will go to the next cell. It won't create a line break there. So that makes it feel like you can't do it, but actually you can. If you put the cursor there again and hold down Alt and then hit enter, you now have created a line break. You can create as many as you like. I'm going to undo that and just use the one line break. Great. Now you can see how much control you actually have over how the text wraps within the cell. So now what I want to do though is, what I really want to do is I want to put the source line up here because there just isn't that much room for it here, and I don't really want to scrunch it into here like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to paste as values, and it just stuffs it up here like that. I'm going to delete it here, and I'm going to make a row up here. Make this a little like that. Okay, and I got my nice source line up here, and you can see that it looks a little confusing because you just see this part of it here, but you see the whole thing there. And the reason is because that line break is hidden. It's there. It's actually in the text, but because I didn't have, so I'm going to undo that. Because I didn't have wrap text on here, it's not showing up. But if I were to turn wrap text on, now any line break I've done will show up. So if I were to add more line breaks, for instance, let me add one after country as an example, it will show up. Now there's a line break after country. But if I turn off wrap text, all the line breaks vanish, and it just shows up in one line again, as you might expect. In this case, we actually want it to be on one line, and that's fine. But let's say we didn't, but we also wanted it to be like wider. We wanted it to be wrap text. Let me get rid of these for a second, just to demonstrate something. So I removed those. Let's say we wanted it to fill this area. We wanted to have it merge across these cells. So I can actually merge the cells, and what it will do is turn on wrap text, and now it will wrap it, but it will wrap it over across these merged cells, just like that. Now, merged cells are probably not something we would use in this case, and there's a lot of reasons not to use them because merged cells can't be moved very easily. When you try to move it, it says we can't do that to a merged cell. We can't move it. Merged cells change the natural behavior in a weird way of how Excel works. And maybe in future videos, when we have other examples, I can show you more examples of how that works and what happens when you mess around or move around merged cells. But generally speaking, as a formatting rule, if you can avoid merged cells, if there's a way to avoid them, I would. And in this case, we definitely can avoid it. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to turn off wrap text, and I can just leave this like that. The other thing we have available to us is we can actually control indenting within a cell. So for instance, if I select these guys, I can go here and control the level of indenting that happens. So what I might want to do is make all of these indented by 2 lines. Make this a little more narrow, like that. And you can see I've made it a little too narrow because this is cut off now. But I don't want it to be really as wide as it needs to be for all these country names. So another option I have available to me is I can select all these guys, go to right click, go to Format Cells, and now you can see a lot of the options we've already talked about. You can control the indenting. You can control the justifying just like you can up here. You can control the justifying vertically. And you can control the indenting here as well. You can see wrap text. So, but what I want to do now is I want to use shrink to fit. What shrink to fit will do is, just like the name suggests, is as you make this less wide, these will shrink to fit the size of the cell. And you can of course overdo this where it looks ridiculous, but it can be helpful if you have one or two things that are just a little bit long and you don't want those to define the width of this column. So now this one looks odd. I'll make it look a little wider. Okay, and that lets me control the shape of the cells a little better. It's not always that useful, but it's a good feature to know how to do. Now, the other thing that's worth knowing about, which we wouldn't really use in this case, but it's just something worth knowing that you can do, you can actually format a piece of a cell differently than you would another part of a cell. So obviously, you already know about these. You can do bold, underline, italics, etc. Normal kind of formatting features that you could do, but you could also embolden just the word America if you wanted to. Or to use a better example, up here, if I wanted to put the word source, and I wanted just the word source to be emboldened, I could turn off boldening here, and then go up here, select the actual part of the cell I wanted to embolden, click bold, and just that part will be bold. Let's say I also wanted the rest of this to be a slightly different font color. I could go here and make this maybe a lighter black. And then this retains its dark black. This looks like it's lighter black. Up here, there's no formatting to be seen, but it is actually taking form over here. The other thing I wanted to mention in this video is text direction. So if you select these, let's say we wanted these to be rotated 90 degrees. We wanted them to be sort of vertical. I can go here and I can change that this way. So I could do this, which would look really odd and is almost useless, though there could be some use cases that could be useful. But in this case, probably the easiest thing to do is to just use a rotation like this, where it rotates it horizontally. And now I can make these columns much more narrow. Let me select all the columns. I can make these much more narrow, and actually there's a real advantage there because now you can see all the columns in one view. I don't have to scroll all over the place. And you can have a lot more control over this too if you go here. I mean, you can also make this at an angle like that, or you can go here, format cells, and you can control the exact angle that it uses. So you can use a different angle like that, a slight angle. And then also keep in mind the justification kind of looks and acts a little odd in this situation. So now, because it's sideways, the justification for that would have been across this way is now across that way. And you can see that's how it's behaving a little differently than you would normally expect based on how it was behaving before. So what I'm going to do now is just make this rotated like this. I feel like that's the easiest to understand, simplest to print option. And that's all we're going to cover today. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hope you can join us for the next lesson. Thank you so much.